Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey inside his little comic paradise. I've recently started to show you the books in this shelf here, which I call my Bermuda Triangle of sorts, because there's a lot of stuff in it, graphic novels, undergrounds, art books, whatever. And whenever I desperately try to find one particular book and can't find it anywhere else, it's probably somewhere hidden around on these boards here. D.J. Bryant. Don't know about any other comic by him. This is a Fantagraphics book and a very well-made, fantastic, wonderfully surreal book. I'm a bit hard-pressed to give you an overview about the stuff which is in here, because it's really complex, but fair to say, if you like Daniel Klaus and this particular way of underground art, you definitely should check out this book here. And yes, the size is as huge as it seems, so this is of course another thing that makes it a bit difficult to order these things here, because some books are just so big that you only can put them on particular special shelves. Like this Shaky Cane, Faith for Life, the Good News Bible, a collection of Shaky Cane stuff. Bit of punkish material. Pull out stuff here. There's Tinfoil Comics, recently showed it. Same with this book here, can't remember actually the title, and Jaywalk magazine. His anthology or comic journal, with his I mean Austin English and Domino Books comic book journal. If you want to know more about this stuff but is it comic art, check out my video about Austin English. This was actually done by his mom. Then, oh yeah, this is Quantoons, Metaphysical Illustrations by Thomas Bunk. He's a German, and he did these kind of illustrations for physical phenomenons, the underground way, and lots of really scientific explanations for all the stuff here. To be honest with you, I just looked at the pretty pictures and got this book here for way undercover price. And I love Thomas Bunk, don't get me wrong, but all these formulas and mathematics were way above my head. And here we have, this is more close to my heart, KRAMER, The Death in Behind You, Tod im Nacken. A German collection of Thomas Bunk's stuff. He worked a long time for Art Spiegelman and together with Art Spiegelman, and he has definitely these underground sensibilities, these American underground sensibilities going on. Even a bit mouse vibes there. And Cruising with a Hound, The Life and Times of Fred Toot, comics by Spain Rodriguez, that is obviously black and white collection of his stuff. Underground work of Jack Jackson, Optimism of Youth. And this was published by Fantagraphics. It's a Fantagraphics book. Then a hardcover by the German publisher Reprodukt with comics by Mary Fleener, Freak Magnet. Then there's an old hardcover here, Lost the Dust Jacket. I guess it's by the old German Volksverlag. It's by Jeff Jones, who later on became, I guess, Catherine Jones or somehow. Wonderful art. Always like the drawings and the cartooning by Jones. And I really found this stuff to be very sexy, especially when I got it. Yeah, definitely in my teenage years, and this was stuff that I hid a bit beside other books. Next up in line we have three very colorful, at least the covers are very colorful, and very dense comic books by Kim Deitch. The insides, I guess, are black and white, as you would have expected. I mean, these are very dense, highly filled panels, and it's not always easy to read Kim Deitch stuff here, but it's always rewarding, I feel. But I don't always have the patience to read a Kim Deitch book. Alias the Cat, a trade paperback with the stuff. Where Demented Went It, I did a video once about this book and other books about crazy comics by Fantagraphics, and this is an homage photo he did once for his idol S. Clay Wilson. And let me put it this way, in comparison to Rory Hayes' comics, Wilson's comics are almost normal. This is here really outrageous, crazy stuff, dealing with all kinds of topics around the bourgeois canon, so to speak. Yeah. So let's check out the rest of that shelf before we can continue with the stuff above. First and foremost, we have this box here with different comic book issue underground stuff. A lot of it came as a part of a bundle from eBay or somewhere else. For not making this video too long, I just can show you the titles or the covers of the stuff here. This is a free comic book issue with Fantagraphics material, Paper Tales, which was actually pretty great. Crap by J.R. Williams. I always enjoy his stuff. Has some kind of Johnny Ryan-ish vibes to me. Perfect format for this kind of stuff that, quite frankly, you can only enjoy, or I can only enjoy, in smaller doses, because obviously this kind of toilet humor becomes repetitive over the long run. One of these female artists, Roberta Gregory, who goes really to town with her very own obsessions, and this is very interesting. Can't tell you too much about this stuff here. Lots of filler material for these bundles, but I don't throw them away. But you can't sell them either, because quite frankly this is a very cheap Fantastic Furry Freak Brothers rip-off here. And sometimes the titles are better than the content. Classics penetrated. But a lot of good stuff in between, like this one here. This was sent over to me by Comic Crack once upon a time. This newspaper comic book in a huge size. Mona, a collection with from different artists, Lorenzo Mattotti and Jaime Hernandez, who did this cover, obviously. Thick, highly recommended. Good cross-section of lots of fantastic artists, stuff from fantastic artists. Serial killing, more serial killings. This was actually not as great as the cover, but right now I'm pretty intrigued if my assessment, my opinion 5 or 6 years ago still holds up, because now maybe I changed my opinion about this, and this looks pretty great. But somehow the story or whatever wasn't complete, and I couldn't get it all, and the completionist in me finds this always troubling. The true story of a nude dancer. There you got me already. Guess I got this. This is probably by Domino Books or a related outfit, but I got it back then by Jean Porcelino's Spit and a Half, I believe. Or maybe with another outfit called Drippy Bone Books. Yeah. Maybe the cover here, yeah, this seems to be by Tara Booth, one of these amazing artists I discovered recently. And look at the table of content here. Josh Bayer, who did the introduction as well, and Josh Simmons, Noah Van Sciver even did a page. Box Brown, lots of interesting cartoonists, and just one of the... This is definitely Jean Porcelino, and yet is Tara Booth. She has these deceivingly simple, naive children art sensibilities, but I really like especially the way she uses the colors. So, yeah. I wanted to only show you the covers, but hey, man, this is one of these crazy outfits, vessels for bald eagles insanities. I mean, he's definitely one of these artists who has to wrestle his inner demons, and he does so with his fantastic art. I mean, yeah. What do I say in these instances? Stuff for another panellogy, but rightly so. And this is Warpwish, obviously, and yeah, the bad printing does these colors here not a good favor. But look at the stuff here. I mean, underground stuff sometimes can be so compulsive and dense and jumps right at you, and there's someone who wants to tell the world something. Last book, but not least in this box here, is SMPPB, another book that I got from Comic Crack. You can guess what SMPPB stands for. Suck My PP Bitch, another one of these crazy vessels for Victor Kairos, aka Bald Eagle's imagination. I mean, you can Google his stuff or his name, and you'll find lots of glorious stuff. This looks almost like Jeff Darrow. Trippy Jeff Darrow, if this is possible. And then we have some hardcovers to rest our weary eyes after all this underground weirdness. I mean, okay, underground weirdness, Paul Kirchner, he is as well, but he has this very classic or perfect art to deliver his out there trippy, druggy stuff. I mean, I did more than just one video about his cartooning. So check that out. And you will find me rambling a lot more about Dope Rider, which you can find in this U-Comics Sonderbände. If you're in Germany, it's in German. Or in this more recent collection of Dope Rider, done by French, Tanibi Edition. Here you can see this. And they recolored the whole stuff. I don't know how I feel about the recoloring, but it gives it definitely hippie vibes. And Murder by Remote Control. I mean, you see the third eye on that guy's forehead, so you can't expect really a normal, generic crime tale. Not possible, Paul Kirchner. A series of one-pagers about this Hieronymus Bosch guy in the underworld. This is almost funny, cartoony stuff. Some of the stuff that, his most recent stuff, he did some new Dope Rider comics, which are collected in the Tanibi edition. So, then we have Heartburst and Other Pleasures by Rick Veitch. And then there's another Rick Veitch book, Shiny Beasts. Ring of Roses by Das Petrou and John Watkins. And Finder by Carla Speed McNeil. So now, here we are at the top of my shelf again, and there's no way that I'll do more than this shelf here in this video. So this will be again one longer series of mine. And actually these books here don't belong in that category here of graphic novels. Super Weird Heroes, I should put them to my superhero comics in the other room, but it's one of these beautiful Joe books about wacky, really wacky heroes like Airmail, Barracuda, the Black Dwarf, Boomerang, but real crazy version of Boomerang. I mean, the title here already gives it away. This is great fun all over, and yeah, would deserve a deeper look. It's not badly drawn or something. It's the stuff has a real nice quality, and you can really see the work that was once put into these comics. Not the same like with Fletcher Hanks, who winged a lot of his comics, was really in many ways a hack, copying his same drawing all over again, but with the simplicity and the weirdness of these stories here, he nevertheless achieved comics with a lot of appeal for me and for many fans all around the world, I feel. And the book here, Turn Loose Our Death Rays and Kill Them All, is a fantastic collection. One must have, actually. Another book that should be somewhere else, Dripping with Fear, a collection of Steve Ditko stories. I have a series of these Joe books with Steve Ditko material. The others are a bit bigger in size, so guess that was the reason why I put them somewhere else. A collection or a story, a graphic. This is really a graphic novel. Wasn't Will Eisner supposed to be the one who did the first graphic novel? I mean, this is obviously a bit ridiculous to argue, but this is a very interesting, touching story about his family, about his grandfather who came from Austria, and the rest of the family story, autobiographical as well. German version by Feast Comics, long gone publisher. I don't think that Feast Comics still is around. Popeye, the great comic book tales by Bud Zagendorf, who is obviously not the first one who did Popeye, but this is a highly enjoyable, nicely made book. I said it before in my first part, this is for the most part American or Anglo-American stuff, with a few exceptions, even if you wouldn't think so, since this is a Mickey Mouse comic, A Mysterious Melody, but it is drawn by one of my favorite European cartoonists, even though this is clearly not his best comic, by the Swiss Cosé. And when you know it, you see his very sensible, caring line all over the place. But yeah, it's up for discussion if this was really a good match. But nice book nevertheless. I mean, we have this, there's a series with these Disney homage stories, and usually priced pretty expensive. They are pretty expensive, but I couldn't pass this Cosé book. Hotel Hades by one Katharina Greve. Not so much my cup of tea, but yeah, got it for cheap. But sometimes you should really pass on cheap books, because often there is a reason why these books are cheap. Yeah, Morton by David Collier, cross-country rail journey. He is really into trains and traveling by train, and I'm as well, so that was interesting. And here one beautiful book by Drawn and Quarterly, Bird's Eye Bristow by one D. Zetwalk. I can't remember his pre-name actually. Let's call him Dan. And this looks almost like a hand-drawn journal or a diary of sorts with lots of illustrations, and you get these schematics. Bit like these books for children, in which you get easy explanations for complicated stuff. The Wretch by Phil Hester. Then there's my not very substantial Ed Piskor collection here. WYSIWYG, of course. And one free comic book issue of Red Room. Wasn't as bad as I feared, but it's clearly nothing for me. I mean, I'm not so much one of the squeamish ones, but this is, yeah, I feel he's aiming too hard at things. I mean, this is actually, if you watch one of these fantastic kayfabe videos, which is obviously a Piskor at the core, aiming toughly at stuff, putting the grind in it, or however he says it. Not jobbing, of course. So, in contradiction, here's some of the best stuff that you can get anywhere, especially this one here, Cursed Pirate Girl. It's a beautiful book, done in this old-fashioned way here with ragged paper, and the best paper you can use for these etching-like drawings. And this has really a continuing story that is more or less easy to read, and even all ages, I would say. but you have to have kids with patience who are willing to do the effort to read the stuff here, because it takes a bit longer, a bit dense. Got the second arc, so to speak, of Cursed Pirate Girl recently. This is issue 1, and yeah, this is beautiful to look at, but I will wait for the second issue, which I will get totally, of course, because I want to read this stuff here in one sitting, and so far I don't have a clue where to start with this issue. So, and if they will produce a second book that is almost as fantastic as the first one here by Akaya, I will be all over it for sure. Then we have the highly praised and, yeah, rightfully highly praised here by Richard McGuire. This is by Pantheon. Yeah, you see just one room over the span of time and what happens in there. And before this house actually was built, and it goes way behind, and uses the possibilities of the medium comic in a new and very interesting way. Then we have more underground stuff. Test Tube by Carlos Gonzalez by Floating World Comics. Very simple cartooning, but interesting. For the most part, I find the stuff from Floating World pretty interesting. Not always it floats well enough to reach its destination here over the pond. Sometimes you order it and it just won't come your way. New Animals by Nick Francis Potter, which is rather an illustrated novel with some comic parts in it. Then we have one of the finest novels you could ever read, Jar of Fools by Jason Lutz, with quite a misleading cover, I feel, by Drawn and Quarterly, and the binding of this one here is pretty loose as well. But the interior, in the interior you have the story, the graphic novel that came before Jason Lutz Berlin, another one of my favorites. This is gripping, emotional, poignant, wonderfully drawn, of course, in this American way of ligne claire, I would say. Same with the next book that we have right there. Scott McCloud's Sculptor did a video a long time ago about this book. I liked it. Then we have Two Brothers by Fabio Moon and Gabriel Barr, which is an adaptation of work by Milton Hatoum. And yeah, this deals with the relationship and tensions between two brothers, surprisingly. And if you like Moon and Barr, you will like this for sure. Then Bolland strips, yeah, strips by Brian Bolland, and so to speak the other side of Mr. Bolland. Then these wonderfully made, wonderfully designed, I should say, King Cat collections by John Porcellino. Classics, Map of My Heart from Lone Mountain, perfect example. And there we have not so good, in the same simple vein, but when you read this, you see that it's not so easy to achieve a certain atmosphere with just a few lines, in case you haven't already know it. But read Snake Pit, it's the weaker brother of John Porcellino, maybe. But I keep them because they don't take too much space. Was it mean to say so? Yeah. probably. Then we have Russian Olive to Red King by Stuart Immonen and his wife. And boy, this art here and the story is really fantastic. Then some Ted McKeever book that was just too big in size to fit together with the other Ted McKeever books. This is a German edition from Edition Comic Speedline. Der Extremist, the Extremist, I would say, is probably the English title, and it's in color, which is not always really fitting for Ted McKeever, but anyhow, Ted McKeever is always good. Lots of surreal books here with surreal subjects and so on. I mean, this is surrealism right there on the cover. A washing machine as a head. This is almost as good as, how does this classic quote go, with a sewing machine on an operation table, if this means surrealism and some other stuff as well. Thrown in together, but this story here actually makes sense and is very interesting, and can't tell you any detail about it because it's a long time since I read it, but I remember that I really liked it. Michael Fifi, Panorama. One time not riffing off and doing his own stuff with the Suicide Squad. And same with Zigas here, which is sort of an attempt to do some kind of Love and Rockets-ish book himself. I like this stuff here a lot, but the biggest problem is, of course, that there's only this book here, and so you don't get really into the rhythm to feel this book here, but you feel the art. Then the book written by Brian Wood and drawn by Ryan Kelly, Local, which follows this girl or young woman there on different and her experiences and quote-unquote off adventures in different places in the US. So we follow her around, and the idea behind was that all these different places play a certain role in these stories, and it was a really good read. And this book here by Oni Press is a neat collection of stuff. So I said that this is for the most part American, but here we have one of these exceptions, my little collection of Brecht Evans books. I mean, you can check out my video or just have a quick glimpse on these beauties here. The Wrong Place, the making of Panther, one book here called Idulfania with a very unusual format. It's there you have the spine, so it's actually opens up this way, but you have strips on this side here with his signature watercolory style. If you want to see more of Brecht Evans, one of, if not the most exciting new cartoonist in Europe, and his most recent work, The City of Belgium, is just outstanding, as I've hopefully proven with my video about this book here. So here you get some other glimpses, very unusual storytelling, colorful, using lots of different ways to convey a story. Concluding this board here and my video as well is this slim trade paperback by Chance or Providence, drawn by Becky Cloonan. Looks a bit, at the first glance, art-wise, by a new volume of Northlanders, but has more fantasy vibes and magic vibes to it. Real nice art, of course. And as far as I remember, I did like the story, but yeah, my memory, one benefit of a bad memory is obviously that you can read something twice or thrice and always find lots of new stuff that you have never read before, but of course you did. So, and lots of books to cover on this shelf alone, and let me tell you, we have these collection overviews. I really have enough stuff to fill lots and lots of videos. Thanks for staying with me. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.